Flying a drone in high winds can be intimidating, and I was once at a point where I was like, do I fly my drone today? Do I not? But I'm going to give you some hints and tips in today's video that are going to give you more confidence and also show you how to fly in high wind situations more safely. So I'm actually going to be using the Mini 4 Pro for this video, and I'm also going to give you my thoughts on how it's been handling in high wind situations. So without further ado, the flies are giving me a break today. Let's get into the video. First thing that you need to make sure you're doing when you're setting up for flying in the wind is you need to make sure you have a nice clear area where you can actually take off and land the drone, unless you're really comfortable doing hand launching. Now, if you're comfortable doing hand launching, this is not as vital as a step, but if you're not comfortable taking the drone off and catching it in your hand, then make sure you've got a really nice clear space, flat, free of obstacles before you even take off. The next thing you want to do is you want to take into account where you are set up in relation to what it is that you want to film. And I recommend that you're actually downwind of whatever it is you want to film. So basically in this situation, I want to film the sunset. It's actually just dropped over the hill in front of me, but you'll still be able to see it when I get the drone up and get above that hill. But the wind is currently blowing from there towards me, so it's the perfect direction. I want to be in the direction the wind is blowing from whatever I'm filming towards me. That's going to give me the best possible chance of the drone getting back to me in a low power situation. The next thing is an absolutely vital step. You absolutely have to make sure that you have full GPS lock on your drone before you take off, because when you're in a high wind situation and you don't have a good GPS lock, when you take off, the drone is actually going to do its best to try and hold position using its sort of visual sensors, but without having a GPS lock, it's much more likely to get blown around and drift because of the wind. Whereas when you've got a GPS lock, the drone knows exactly where it needs to be as a GPS position, and it's going to do much better when it comes to holding that stable location in a high wind situation. Go away, flies. So those are the things you want to be checking before you actually take off and fly your drone. And also on top of that, you should be doing your normal sort of pre-flight checks, making sure your motor's spin free, checking your propellers are tight, looking for damage on your drone as well, especially in a high wind situation. If there's any damage on your drone and your drone starts going out of control, it's much less likely to be able to recover from that. So we've done all that, we're ready to take off, we've got good GPS lock on everything. I'm going to show you the next thing you need to do as soon as you take off. Okay, so once we're up in the air, the first thing we need to do is we want to have a look at our drone and make sure it's behaving exactly how we would expect it to. So what I mean by that is it's sort of hovering pretty stable. It's moving around a little bit because there is a bit of wind about today, but it's generally holding the same position. It's not going up or down, and it's staying roughly within, 30 centimeters of where it sits. So once we're happy with that, the drone looks like it's pretty good to go. We can go off and start flying. Okay, so I'm now flying towards my target sort of shooting destination, and you can see the sun has risen again. And what I said before, flying into the wind when heading towards your destination is really important because you're going to use more battery flying into the wind than you are coming back. So as long as you get to your destination and you do all your shooting, and before you head back you've got more than half the battery that you set off with, so in this case we'd have 50% battery left, then you're pretty confident you're going to make it back without any problem. Now, if this is the other way around and you're flying sort of downwind to go to your shooting location, you're going to have to be much more careful. You're going to want to make sure that you're leaving at least sort of like 60 to 70% of the battery that you set off with in order to make sure you can make it back safely. And if you're not one of those people who's monitoring their battery too much, the drone is going to tell you when it wants to return to home. It's taken into account wind and all these different kind of things because it can tell it's fighting a headwind on the way out. It's going to feel it's going slower than it would. It's going to tell you to return to home sooner than it would if there was no wind. So if you get the return to home message, please listen to it. Your drone knows a lot better than you probably do in that situation. So turn around, fly back home. It's worth keeping your drone for another day than it is losing it thinking you know better and you can last longer than the battery. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Mini 4 Pro and my experiences with it in sort of high wind situations, and it's been very, very impressive. I've flown this drone in some truly criminal wind situations. Up to 60km/h winds. And yes, it was pretty much standing sideways while it was sitting there, but it fought the wind. It did a great job. I was still able to use sort of active tracking methods. It was orbiting me. It did struggle, granted, but it still made the orbit look good. And I cannot fault it. For a sub 250 gram drone, the way it's been handling the wind that I've put it through is extremely impressive. Going back to flying in the wind, one thing you need to do is you need to trust your equipment. These drones go through a lot of testing to make sure they can stand up to different levels of wind rating. The Mini 4 Pro is capable of withstanding up to 10.7 meters a second of wind, which is a level 5 rating. Basically, it can withstand a hell of a lot of wind. The chances are you're not actually going to be flying in winds anywhere close to that. Even though it feels really, really windy for you, the drone is likely more than capable of dealing with whatever situation you're going to put it in. Now, if you start to get into a situation where the wind is too strong, it is going to give you a strong wind warning on the screen, and that's just going to let you know that you need to be careful. The drone is experiencing a lot of wind, and you maybe need to think about lowering your altitude, because at lower altitudes generally the wind is lower, and also if you're flying over water, that tends to be a more windy situation than if you're flying over land. So I'm going to get a few more clips out here, and I'm going to give you some more tips on flying in the wind. So we can see now that the drone has just dipped below 50%. We're at 47% battery. So I'm going to make my way home now. It hasn't already given me the return to home warning, mainly because I'm not actually that far away from myself. If I was much further away, it would have given me that return to home warning already. But I'm going to fly the drone back to myself manually now. And you're going to notice when you're coming back, the drone is going to make its way back much quicker than it did on the way out. Okay, so we made it back in one piece, mainly because I was respecting the rules that I've told you in this video. So I made my way back with at least 50% of the battery that I set off with. So the drone has made it back in one piece. So we'll just land the drone now. I'm perfectly comfortable hand catching, so for me that's not an issue. But if you're not, make sure you got that clear area, and then you can just put the drone down exactly where you need to. If you've got a wide open space, you don't have to be as accurate. And also if the wind's blowing it around a little bit, just gives you that bit more room for error. Flies! The Mini 4 Pro is an absolute testament to what these sub 250 gram drones are just now capable of. The fact that it can withstand some seriously windy conditions and still hold its own and get really nice stable footage. The gimbal reacts perfectly to the drone's movements. These flies are just absolutely having a ball right now. And your footage still looks really smooth. So the next time you have a windy day, go out, fly your drone, get comfortable with it, listen to the tips I've given you in today's video, and it's all going to help you to build the confidence you need so that you can make sure when you want to get that shot and you're a bit unsure about the weather conditions, if it's something that you've experienced before and you follow the rules that I told you in this video, you're going to have a beautifully smooth experience flying in the wind, and your footage is going to be exactly what you wished for. And these flies are going to be the death of me. But if you've just got your Mini 4 Pro, make sure to go and check out this video right here where I tell you the 7 things you should do as soon as you get it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Like and subscribe if you want to do all that. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.